Hey everyone, I'm Ermysenigma. Welcome back to my channel and welcome to Monster Analysis. Up for analysis today is Kihaku. Ever since Kihaku made a massive dragon emerge from nothingness and destroy his enemies, no one questions his power, but he's more than a fighter. He also offers counsel to people. However, it is harder to decipher Kihaku's advice than to find a solution for the problem yourself. And so here we have Kihaku, an amazing design for a monster, and as of the time recording this video, there's a total of 28 water legendary monsters. And Kihaku himself is also in the Dragon Book along with 28 other legendary monsters. And he's also in the Sea Book, which currently consists of 27 legendary monsters. And lastly, he's in the Good Legions book, which consists of 58 legendary monsters. And I just gotta say something about him being in Good Legions. Yeah, I understand that he offers counsel to people, but at the same time, this monster, he created this massive dragon from nothingness and he destroyed all of his enemies. He just completely destroyed his enemies, just wiped them out. Is that Good Legion material? I'm still upset about Taiga. That's the only reason I'm saying that. I'm still upset about Taiga. But Taiga aside, this is a Kihaku analysis, so let's jump into stats. Kihaku has a power of 3168, which is the 22nd. He's actually tied for 22nd place in the water category. He's tied with Intiander. As for his life, he has 29,556, which is the 6th highest life stat for a water legendary monster, so that's pretty good. And as for his speed, he has 3,476, which is the 2nd fastest speed stat for water legendary monsters. It's actually tied with Vodunoi, Frostwrath, and Intiander. And as for his trait, he's hardened. All status effects have a 20% less accuracy against it. And in my opinion, you guys have heard me say this multiple times, this is really the best trait to have for your average monster. Immune to freeze, you may be thinking that would have been nice, but no, I don't think so, not anymore. Especially with the change to possession. So then you may be thinking immunity to possession would be nice, but no, because then he's vulnerable to being frozen, especially as a water monster. So in the current state of the game, having hardened really is the best thing. Sure, it's only a 20% less chance to get hit by a negative effect, but hey, it's better than nothing, right? It's better than a 100% chance of being immobilized by a certain negative effect, like stun, or possession, or freeze. And so yeah, I seriously think the trait is amazing. His speed stat is amazing, he has a nice amount of life, his power stat doesn't matter, and he's in a good amount of bugs. So far so good. Kihaku, you're doing great. Oh, and by the way, I might butcher some names. I was thinking of not even pronouncing the names, but we'll just see how it goes. If I mispronounce something, if I butcher it, just please ignore it. Just do me that favor. So for the ultimate attack, we have Shihan. Deals massive water damage to all enemies, applies stun to all enemies. So his ultimate attack deals 70 water-based damage, and it's an AoE stun. Pretty straightforward. For Deny Monster, this is amazing. And then we move on over to skills group 1, and there actually is a skill I'm going to be recommending, a skill you should definitely run. It's Katsu Jinkin. 50% chance of applying possession and freeze to all enemies. 50% chance of applying possession and freeze. 2 AoE deny skills in 1. This is incredible. It also costs 42 stamina, but it has no cooldown, which means even if you get hit with cooldowns activated, guess what? You can still use the deny skill. This is similar to how like Cabin Fish, if you ever do cooldowns activated against Cabin Fish, he may be running Lead Rain, and then suddenly you see your monsters get stunned, and Lead Rain is a 50% chance to stun. But anyways, going back to Kihaku, 50% chance of applying possession and freeze. First of all, let me just say, this is incredible. The wiki comments, there was a lot of misunderstanding about why this is so good. And later on you're going to see, he has a 100% chance of possession and freeze. The reason it's so good is because monsters have the tough trait, monsters have the hardened trait, they have the bulwark trait. If a monster has a bulwark trait, they have a 50% chance so negative effects don't land. If they have the tough trait, it's a 35% chance so negative effects won't land. And the tough trait is really reserved more towards the bodyguards and their pets. And then lastly, if you have the hardened trait like Kihaku himself, it's a 20% chance to not get hit by negative effects. So by having 2 immobilizing effects in one skill, this increases the chance of actually immobilizing an enemy monster that has hardened, that has tough, that has bulwark. But more so, keep in mind, it's not a 1 against 1 battle, it's a 3 against 3. And on defense, the enemy can have all sorts of monsters with different traits. They can have a monster who's immune to possession. They can have another monster who's immune to freeze. They can have a monster that has the mountain trait, in which case 2 monsters are immune to freeze, 1 is immune to possession. So by activating this skill, you still have a chance of immobilizing everyone. And so let me just repeat that point to make sure it's clear to everyone. There is absolutely nothing wrong with having possession and freeze in 1. It's incredible that it has possession and freeze in 1. I get your thinking, right? You're thinking, well, if my monster is possessed and frozen, that's useless because how are they going to attack themselves? You really shouldn't be thinking about it that way. Instead, you should think of it this way. The whole point of immobilizing skills is to prevent the enemy from attacking you. It's to prevent your monsters from getting hurt. The cool thing about stun and freeze is, guess what? The enemies, they lose their turn. That's it, right? Freeze and stun. Enemy loses their turn. Just keep that in mind. With possession, you possess the enemies and then they use their own stamina to attack themselves. So it's a better mobilizing skill. But so what if you freeze and possess? At the end of the day, they still lost their turn. Sure, they didn't use up stamina to attack themselves, but they still lost their turn. So you still mobilize the enemy monster. That's all you wanted to do. Who cares if they don't attack themselves? This is of course my opinion, but I want to make that point super clear because I think a lot of people misunderstood why possession and freeze is so powerful. You're just after immobilizing the enemy. You're after protecting your monsters. Whether it's a stun, a freeze, or possession, it doesn't matter that they don't attack themselves. The point is, your monsters aren't going to take any damage, they're not going to get hit with negative effects that turn. And once again, considering that more and more monsters are being released with the Bulwark trait, the Nemesis monsters are having the Bulwark trait, more monsters are being released with the Hardened trait, the generals and their pets and maybe some bodyguards, they have the Tough trait, water monsters are being released with immunity to possession, earth monsters with immunity to possession. Considering monsters with different elements have different traits, Kihaku and his skills, they are just straight out phenomenal. So Katsu Jinken, you definitely want to run this skill. And also just keep in mind that it's only a 50% chance of applying possession and freeze. So you're going to be lucky if you even land one of them. So if the enemy monster isn't immune to anything and he doesn't have Hardened trait or Bulwark, well then you're in good luck because maybe the possession does land but the freeze doesn't. Maybe the freeze lands but the possession didn't. So for this skill itself, it works out. And considering both have a 50% chance to land individually, I believe that's essentially like you have a 75% chance to land something. Or maybe it's higher. I completely forgot how to do combinations and permutations, because there's essentially 4 different outcomes. There's possession lands and freeze doesn't, there's freeze lands and possession doesn't, there's both possession and freeze lands, or then it's neither lands. So 4 different outcomes, considering it's a 50% chance of applying possession and freeze, yeah, just regardless, run this skill, it's too good not to run. And now that we're finally done with skills group 1, let's move on over to skills group 2. Katatadori deals very heavy special damage to one enemy, removes 25% of stamina for one enemy, so it's a stamina remove skill that deals 55 special base damage to a single enemy monster. It only costs 25 stamina, has no cooldown, and in my opinion you really have no reason to run this skill. I think he has better skills, but if you do want to run this skill then I guess go for it. I just feel like usually you're only going to be using 2 skills with this monster, maybe 3 skills, and after that the battle will be over. So completely up to you whether or not you want to run Katatadori. The next skill in skills group 2 is Jayuwaza, deals moderate water damage to all enemies, 50% chance of applying possession and freeze to all enemies, requires cooldown. So once again we have a skill like the one from skills group 1, except this one actually deals a little bit of damage. It's 30 water based damage to all of the enemy monsters, the stamina cost is a little higher at 48, and it has a 1 turn cooldown. And so like the skill from skills group 1, I would definitely recommend you run this skill. And then last in skills group 2 we have Agatsu, deals moderate special damage to one enemy, applies possession and freeze to one enemy, requires cooldown. So this skill targets a single enemy, deals 40 damage, 33 stamina cost, 2 turn cooldown, and it's a single freeze and possession, and this is the third skill I would recommend. Possession and freeze, and you have a 95% accuracy against a single enemy monster. There might be situations where you just need to target one monster, where you just need to make sure that one monster gets immobilized, and sometimes it's a little risky doing a 90 accuracy AoE, because you have a 10% chance to miss. So a 5% chance, you may be thinking it's not that big of a difference, but to me it is. The higher accuracy I have, the better it is for me. Especially when there's only really one enemy monster that's a huge threat. If you eliminate that threat and you can survive to live for the next attack, that's going to be awesome. So in my personal opinion, you should run Agatsu. And this also really works out if the monster is immune to freeze, well then you can guarantee that possession. Or of course if the monster is immune to possession, well then you have a greater chance to apply that freeze. So run Agatsu, run Jayuwaza, and run Katsu Jinken. And moving on over to skills group 3, we have Kyudo, deals moderate special damage to all enemy, applies stamina leak to all enemies, requires cooldown. So this AoE deals 40 special base damage, 27 stamina cost, 2 turn cooldown. Actually, one thing I haven't pointed out is the stamina cost on this monster. Take a look at skills group 1, that's 42. And for Jayuwaza, that's 48. So high stamina cost, 33 right here. This skill right here is one of his lower costing stamina skills, only at 27 stamina. And then this skill has a 2 turn cooldown, and it's an AoE stamina leak. And personally, I can't recommend this skill. I really don't see a situation where it would come that much in handy. Considering you have possession and freeze skills that you can ultimately do back to back to back, I see no reason where you'd have to apply this. Although, to be honest, like, considering the stamina cost at 48 and 42, you really wouldn't be doing it back to back to back to back endlessly, because after 3 turns, you're gonna have to recharge. But yeah, overall, I'm not gonna be recommending this skill. And then next up, we have Kayai. Applies stamina regeneration and life regeneration to our allies, requires cooldown. So this skill costs 13 stamina, and is a 3 turn cooldown, and it gives your monsters, all of your monsters, energy and life regeneration. Wait a minute, 20? Wasn't this recently buffed to 30? So, you know what, Social Point has been doing a lot, where like they changed the damage output on bleed, they changed the damage output on sunburn, and I don't know if they changed it to all monsters or just a few monsters, so I don't know whether this is supposed to be 30% or 20%. But regardless, your monsters are going to have energy regeneration and they're going to have life regeneration, which does recover your life by 20%. And so overall, this is a really great supportive skill, but like with the previous skill, I really don't see that much of a situation where you're going to have to use it, but it can come in handy, and for that reason, I was tempted to recommend this skill as opposed to Agatsu, and ultimately, it's going to be up to you. Do you want to run the supportive skill, or do you want to go with the single possession and freeze skill? That decision is ultimately going to be up to you if you have this monster. But yeah, you shouldn't rule out this skill, you may want to consider running it. And then the final skill we have is Kazushi. Deals moderate special damage to all enemies, applies possession and freeze to all enemies, requires cooldown. So this skill attacks multiple enemies dealing 30 damage, it costs a whopping 54 stamina, has a 3-turn cooldown, but possession and freeze, they aren't 50%, they're just possession and freeze, which is what we want, a 100% chance to mobilize if the effect actually lands. And so even if a monster was to have the Bullrock trait for example, there's a 50% chance for the freeze to land, and then there's an extra 50% chance for the possession to land. So the chances are you probably will be landing one of those negative effects. So those VIP monsters, those nemesis monsters, if a monster has hardened or tough, chances are you're at least going to land something, which is what makes this monster incredibly powerful. And for that reason, this monster might possibly be the best water legendary monster. Before you say no, General Thetis has stamina devours, she can 100% deny all the time. Yeah, I can see your point, but this monster is way faster than General Thetis, so even if Thetis is on defense, you're going to be going first, and you're going to have a chance to possess General Thetis, freeze General Thetis, or both. So I don't know, this monster, he's so fantastic. And for the recommended skills, it would be your 3 AoE possession and freeze skills, so that's Katsu Jinkin, Jayuwaza, and Kazushi. And then your fourth and final skill, I'm personally going to be recommending Agatsu, but if you don't want Agatsu, you could also use Kiai. And in my opinion, that's really his best skill set. You may be thinking armor, you don't really need skill group 2, possession and freeze, because Katsuku and Jinkin, that's spammable, and they essentially do the same thing. The only thing Waza does is that it deals 30 damage, which is irrelevant with this monster. So you don't really need to run Waza, you can just run one of your other skills, maybe the 55 stamina remove skill, maybe the AoE stamina leak skill that deals 40 damage. That is actually a very valid point, but it's only valid if you're only planning to use this monster on offense, and I think this monster would work as a really great defense monster also. And if you do ever put this monster on defense, don't you want him to have 3 skills that can potentially deny all of the enemy monsters? Don't you want him to have 3 AoE possession and free skills? So that's my counter argument. Yes, if you're running this monster only for offensive purposes, never putting him on defense, then you wouldn't need Jayuwaza. I completely agree with that. But considering this monster can be used both on offense and for defense, you really should use the 3 AoE deny skills. And with all that being said, that is finally going to conclude my analysis on Kihaku, who once again, in my opinion, might possibly be the best water legendary monster. I don't know, I have to hear from all of you guys. What do you guys think? How do you think he compares to the other water legendary monsters? Is he as good as them? Is he not as good as them? How do you think he compares in the current meta? Let me know in the comments below. I am really eager to hear what you guys have to say. What skill set would you also choose for him? Do you agree with me that you should use all 3 of the AoE skills? Or maybe you shouldn't, maybe you should leave out skills group 2. Let me know in your comments below whatever you guys are thinking. And with that being said, I really hope you guys enjoyed the video. Best of luck to all of you on your Monster Legends adventures, and like always, remember to dream big and pursue your passions.